Hi everyone, welcome to Brick Arena, and just thought I would do another live stream. I haven't done one for a couple of weeks now, and thought I'd jump on and see if anyone fancies a chat and got any questions for me. I've got a few topics up my sleeve if other people don't have any suggestions or are too busy to chat or whatever, but we'll see what we can get through. It's a pretty informal session. I'm not doing any sorting tonight because I just found it a bit too distracting last time, and I thought I'd rather focus on the chat. So I can see there's a few of you joining: Jimmy, Skits, Reglin, and can't pronounce everybody's names there, but good to see you all joining. And as I said, if you've got any particular topics that you want to talk about, feel free to shout up. Don't know if any of you caught my video a couple of weeks ago on buying a store, and would be interested to know whether any of you found that useful at all, or whether any of you are planning on buying stores in the future, or something you've already done, and either the information that I gave you sort of resonated or was completely against what you've done yourselves in the past. But it would be interesting to get any feedback on that. It's been a pretty busy week for me. I've been not just fulfilling orders, but doing a bit of organization, and I had a few phone calls this week actually with other people, which have been really interesting. I had a catch up with Brick Pickers UK, which is the guy who used to run the store that I bought out, and I was just checking in with him and seeing how he's doing, and we had a really good chat about Bricklink and sort of strategies and everything else. I also had a call that was really interesting and enlightening actually, with a buyer, not someone who sells it all themselves, but someone who's a regular buyer, places many orders every single day, sometimes 3-4 orders a day with the same stores even. And it was really interesting to get some insights from him in terms of expectations, and I'll maybe come on to that a little bit later. So let's just have a little look. Barry Connolly, evening. What software do you use to link Bricklink and Brickowl inventories? I use Brick Freedom, and you'll see a link in all of my videos to Brick Freedom, which is a sort of referral link where you can try it out. You'll get 14 days free usage with that. I've also done a blog post on other syncing software, so if you check out my brickarena.com website and look at the blog on there, there's an article about syncing software, and it gives you a breakdown of all of the various options. So I'm not just pushing you to Brick Freedom, but I think that Brick Freedom is what I use. It's what many people use, and I think it's the most feature rich of the syncing solutions. And not only that, but it's a fair cost, I think, in line with most others. If you're looking for a free option, then as per the article, you can use BrickSync. The trouble with BrickSync is that you need to really be running that constantly on a machine, 24 hours a day, 24/7. And I used to do that for a long time. And occasionally you'll get issues with it where a new color gets introduced, and you have to wait for people to recompile the software and wait for that to become available. And that just got a bit too much of a pain for me. I had one or two instances where I maybe hadn't checked for a day or two, and I'd check and it hadn't been syncing for a day, and that's the worst possible thing you could ever want. And I've found Brick Freedom to be absolutely rock solid. One of the other benefits, and I'm not saying that Brick Freedom is the only one that does this, but one of the biggest benefits I find, as well as the syncing, is the pick sheet for it. The pick sheet is second to none in my opinion, and it's just a really useful tool. And I also keep an eye on all of my stats through Brick Freedom in terms of my sales income, how many orders I've got, and whether I'm up or down each month on those. So well worth checking out. Hi Anton, I hope you're doing well. Brick Outside the Box. I did look at buying a Bricklink store last year from Fleabay, but the seller wouldn't sell me a store file. Right, that was one of the key things, and I think that's a no-go for me, for anyone who's wanting to buy a store. That any sort of reputable seller will be willing to give you an inventory file to see what they've got, so that you can evaluate it. And as I said in the video that I did, I know that often they'll want to give you maybe a PDF or a CSV file or something like that. And I would really advise against that and try and really push for a Brickstore file. And for those of you who are not using Brickstore, you should be. It's just the best tool for any seller. The way you can sort of slice and dice the information in your Brickstore files is just second to none. So I'd really push for a Brickstore file. Make sure that you know, you get visibility of that, and that you can slice and dice it. And I mentioned in my video lots of ways that you can you know, look at that Brickstore file to, you know, evaluate the worth of the store, and you can, you know, sort it, filter it, and reprice is the key thing, really, to check that you know, so you can come up with a price basically that you're happy to pay for it. So if you've not watched the video at all, then I would watch that if you're contemplating buying a store. One of the questions: how to put parts from sorting to places where you already have those parts. How do you do it in an efficient way? How do you put parts from? So I don't think there's only one way that I know of doing this, really, which is, you know, you've got your inventory, you know where every part is, because you're storing the remarks in your you're storing the drawer location in your remarks field, or should be. So whenever I'm parting out a set, and again, I'm parting out using Brickstore, and in Brickstore, there's a way that you can, once you've brought in the set that you're parting out, or even if you're adding loose parts yourself and building up a file ready to upload, then you can open your store inventory in another file, and you can pull in the remarks from that inventory file, so that it will then tell you in your Brickstore file exactly where those parts need to go. Then in terms of efficiency, it's really just a case of going and pulling the drawer, taking your cup or whatever, and putting it in there. Now, lots of people have different approaches, and it depends on your setup. So one way I've seen that I can imagine is quite efficient is if you're someone who has lots of empty drawers, and this is good when you're just starting out, then you can have all of those drawers pulled out of the cabinet and laid out on a table and be parted out into those drawers. That's one way that some people do it. I've never done it that way. I use a cup method. So I've always got pots of cups laying around, or stacks of cups laid around. So I will part out into cups, and then I'll stack them, sort them by colour, etc. And then I'll typically, when I'm using Brickstore, I'll work through a colour at a time, and I'll just be putting those away. And one of my things that I do, instead of constantly trying to move things to a new location when it outgrows the drawer size, I typically fill a drawer of a certain part, and then if I've got more stock and it's going to overflow that, I bag it and I put it in a bulk bin. So any bulk beyond the initial drawer size just goes into a kind of a holding box, if you like. And I have those by colour. You can kind of just see them at the top of the screen here. So I have them top and bottom. They're the really big black boxes on the top shelves. So each of those black boxes is full of a specific colour. So I'll have a box for black overflow, a box for yellow, a box for red, box for green, box for blue, etc. So anything that doesn't fit into the drawers or is overflowing the drawers just goes in there. And then if I go to empty a drawer, if I'm picking and there isn't enough left in the drawer, then I go to the overflow box to retrieve them and refill the drawer. So hope that answers your question. Staffordshire Bricks, I'm not at the stage of buying another store yet, I don't think. Well, it was an interesting video though. Thanks for that. I'm glad you found it interesting. Brick Zones, hi. Anton, does the parts list from Brick Freedom work well for you? Is it easy to follow and not make any mistakes? It is so easy. Let me, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this. Let me see if I can do it on screen. Just bear with me. The only reason I'm hesitating is because, for obvious reasons, I don't want people to see too much of my numbering, etc. In terms of, you know, orders, etc. So let me just get an order ready to pick. And let me try and share my desktop. So tell me if you can see my screen at the moment. I'm not sure if you can or not. And I know there's a little bit of a delay on this, so I'll assume that you can. Yeah, I can just see it coming through. Right, so what you've got here is a pick sheet for an order. I'm just trying to hide the person's address, so I'm not going right to the top. So you end up with a pick sheet like this, and one of the benefits with Brick Freedom is you can pick multiple orders at a time. In this case, I'm only picking one particular order, but if I was picking multiple orders, you would have the same list, but they would have different letters and different colors. So you'd have an A order, a B order, a C order, etc. And then as you go along and you pick an item, you simply check it off. So when you check it off, you can see it goes green, and it will move to the next item automatically. Let me just go back up to this one because I was missing that one. So when you're on the item that you're about to pick, you'll see that each row expands and gives you lots of information about the part number. Obviously it gives you a picture, it gives you your location, and it gives you the quantity that you need to pick with the remaining in your inventory. And one of the nice things about this as well is that if you had a problem with this particular part as you were picking it, let's say I need 5 and I've only got 4, then you can flag this as a problem. So you would go in here and I might say I'm missing an item, and I'd save that, and that line would go red as you would need to do something with it. So that's how it works, and you just continue down the list, going around your store and picking and checking each item off. So it's very easy. One of the big things I like about this is I used to pick from a physical printed sheet, and I would go along and I would occasionally miss a line accidentally. But what's nice about this is you can completely jump around your store physically and pick items and miss them, and you'll know at the end, you'll get a message to say that everything has been picked. So it's really easy, to keep track of what you're doing. So hopefully, that gives you some idea and so on of how it works, how easy it is to see what it is you're actually picking, and how to keep track of that. Barry Connolly, still finding eBay the best place to sell minifigures. I think it's a good place to sell. I think it has slowed a lot on eBay, at least for me. But I'll be honest, I haven't been putting an awful lot on there, just because of the store acquisition and me trying to merge the stock and everything. Is, I should really probably split my time a bit more, but also because for me at least, I used to typically put new minifigs on there, and I would do that as I bought new sets, but I haven't been buying that many new sets, to be honest, so I'm not putting too much on there. But yeah, still a good place to sell minifigs and small sets. Is still a great place, and I would always have that as another marketplace anyway. You should not put all your eggs in one basket. Spread yourself around a little bit and try and have little slices of the pie in different places. Staffordshire Bricks, I have a question on postage. I'm always dubious sending out tracked abroad. Do you have many issues send non-tracked outside the UK? I very rarely, I keep saying this, I do international every day. And there's people on here who know, like Ralph, who I can see on there, Ralph's Bricks, who's had an order from me. And I know that they don't love that there's no tracking. But if you go with the cheapest option with Royal Mail, a non-tracked service, I still think it's really reliable. I rarely ever send anything tracked. And the reason for that is just because it increases the cost massively. And there's no way around that. The only time I'll send it tracked is if it's a really sort of high value item. But if it's, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 quid, and then I'll just send it personally. You have to accept, I think, as a business, that there will be issues occasionally, and you might have to take a hit on the odd one. But I think that's part of doing business. But in my experience, I don't have anything going missing on international, to be honest, to pretty much any country. So I find it, quite acceptable to just send non-tracked. Anton, Keith, do you have any good experience with using eBay Global Shipping Program? Any issues with it at all? No, it's brilliant. It's great because all of the hassle is taken away from you. The only feedback I would say about the Global Shipping Program is I'm staggered at the price that people pay for things through the Global Shipping Program when they add on duty and shipping and everything. But from a seller perspective, it's brilliant because all you've got to do is get it to the local distribution point, wherever it is in the country. I think it's in Leicestershire for us in the UK. And you just send there via second class or whatever, and eBay have you covered from there on. Once it's got to them and they've received it, you're safe. There's no comeback on you. They've checked it. They'll ship it on, and never had a problem with it. So yeah, it's really good. I'm just checking other comments here. Evening to some other people. Ralph, again. Brickmark. Colin Williams. Hi, Colin. What else have we got here? Comments there about Ralph's Secret Society. Yeah, as he says, no secret. Keith, I've watched all the vlogs you have made, and I was wondering, do you keep charts of the different countries that orders from you, or maybe Brick Freedom have those details? Good question. I don't keep track personally, to be honest. I think you probably can see that in Brick Freedom. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not something I look at regularly. I send anywhere. I will comment though. One topic I was going to mention later was about feedback. I have had this week my first negative, not negative, neutral feedback in a long time. I don't have any negatives on my store. I do have a couple of neutrals, and I think all of the neutrals, if I remember right, are from international buyers. And usually it's not a comment about me, it's more about maybe it's taken them longer than they expected to arrive. I got one this week which annoyed me because it said too expensive, but order management was good or something like that. And the annoying thing was the order was cancelled anyway, so they left me neutral feedback on an order that I never got any money for. So that was a little bit annoying, but it's one of those things, and I don't think we need to worry too much about the odd neutral. I'm not super careful anymore about having 100% as a seller or whatever. I think people can look at the feedback you've got, and you've got so much feedback that's positive that it's not a big issue, I think. Brickmark, Ralph Reese is picking site to people. Yeah, well, you can ask Ralph whether he's going to be doing that. I don't know. There's lots of options out there. I was actually contacted this week by another guy, and I won't say the name of the guy or the platform, but he has another solution that he was asking me to try, and was suggesting that it's better than Brick Freedom, etc. I had a look, and I personally didn't think it had any advantages over what I'm using today between Brick Freedom and Brick Store. He's offered me a free demo of it, and I might take him up on that, more from a perspective of giving him some insight as well as me into the other tools and what they're doing. No problem, Anton. No problem at all. Colin's still using physical paper sheet, but do need to start using Brick Freedom. Yeah, I'd really recommend it, Colin. It's really good. I will admit I do occasionally still use a paper pick sheet, only because of my own stupidity, when I come down on a morning and I've realised I haven't charged my iPad up. So what I'll sometimes do, if I get in that situation, I always print pick sheets anyway, not because I pick from them typically, but because I always include them with the order, and that's a whole other debate whether we want to do that or not. I know a lot of people just put a card in. That's not something I do. I put a printed pick sheet in, and the logic for me from that is that if I'm a buyer and I'm placing an order for 100 different lots, when I get it back, I want to check that off. And I think the pick sheet is a way for them to check it off. I know they can do it online, and they can do it in the order and have a look through the order. It's just the way I've always done it. But yeah, if I've forgotten to charge the iPad for whatever reason, I'll come down on a morning, put it on charge, and I'll pick from paper a few smaller orders, and where I'm much less likely to make a mistake. And so I still do use paper occasionally. Raymond Dias, hello from Amarillo, Texas. Welcome. Me and my wife are looking at possibly going to Texas for our holidays this year, so welcome. Corin 666, I sell untracked all the time, never miss anything until now, and since a few months sending small parcels untracked is much cheaper here. Yeah, I think everyone has with shipping has their own preferences. I know some people who will only ever send tracked because they don't want to lose out, you know, so they've got the insurance if it goes missing, etc., that they're not going to be out of pocket. My issue with a lot of that is how good the coverage is from Royal Mail anyway. You know, there's many times I know that if things have gone missing in the UK and you try and put a claim in, you've got problems here because they want receipts for the items you've sent, which you can't do because they're typically odd parts that you've sent, obviously. So you can't prove that you've purchased them and what they cost. So they get a bit difficult about that. And I know that sometimes they'll want to pay people in postage stamps. So instead of giving you the money back, they'll send you a book of stamps. Now, personally, even if I've had something go missing, I typically don't even bother claiming from Royal Mail. I just take it on the chin and move on. But as I say, I haven't really had many problems, certainly not for years anyway. Yeah, someone else is saying Royal Mail tracked is a waste of money. Things still go missing, and that's not an internal mail within the UK. Yeah. I did have a discussion yesterday on the mail topic with this other buyer, and they were really praising another seller that uses Royal Mail 24. And what they were saying is that Royal Mail 24 always gets to them the next day, whereas first class doesn't. So I'm not sure about that. I mean, I sent him an order yesterday, first class, and he didn't get it today. Now, I get an awful lot of customers who leave feedback for me saying amazing quick delivery, received in under 24 hours. So I know that first class gets there in a lot of cases. I don't know why it's that this particular buyer says whenever he orders first class, it never gets there the next day, which seems a little bit odd to me. I always have that question in my head, to be honest, whether to use Royal Mail 24 and Royal Mail 48 versus first and second class. And I go round and round in it, and sometimes I even have sent Royal Mail 24 or 48 when I've said it's first or second class. And it's all down to whether you want to pay the VAT on it. The Royal Mail 24 and 48 is a little bit more expensive, and you've got the problem of you certainly don't have any insurance with that. So if it goes missing, you can't go to Royal Mail and ask for any money back anyway. Not that I do that anyway, but the advantage in theory is that you get a delivery confirmation, but even then I've found the delivery confirmations aren't always 100% because the postman doesn't scan it or whatever. Staffordshire Bricks might open up more to abroad. Cheap option is not expensive at all, so would open up to so many people. I honestly think that I know a lot of sellers just don't sell abroad because they don't want the hassle. I don't really see it as much hassle at all, to be honest with you. That's just my experience, but I'm shipping out every day internationally, I would say. The biggest pain, which I'm sure you all know, is Germany, because of their packaging act that you need to sign up for, and you need to pay them some money at the start of the year and tell them how much recyclable materials you're sending into the country. But even that, it's not a big issue. Colin, don't get you started on feedback. Yes, I know your view on feedback, and I know you've had a tough time of late with difficult and unreasonable feedback responses. So yeah, I sympathise with you there, and I've been pretty fortunate with feedback in my time. It was just that one neutral this week was yeah, a little bit annoying. Anton, looking at getting a new shipping label printer. Can you recommend the one you use? By the way, what is the name of it? So I use a Zebra GK420D, which I think is a pretty standard one for all eBayers and resellers. And I can honestly say, when through my seller journey, if you like, that getting a label printer was the biggest thing that changed my life. How I would say it was that good. Going from what I used to do was I'd print out sheets of paper, and then I'd end up, because the label would only take up a quarter of the paper, I'd end up folding the paper up, and then I'd have to tear off 4 bits of sellotape and attach it, and it never looked great anyway. And going from that to printing out your labels and just peeling them off and sticking them on is you know, a life changer, to be honest. So I really recommend getting one, and I really recommend the model I've got. I know that other people seem to like the Dymo, I think it is it the XL or something like that. You have to get a specific one that will take 6x4 labels, but yeah, I swear by it. And by the way, that's one of the benefits of being a Royal Mail business customer, is that you get free 6x4 labels, so you can just go online and order as many rolls of labels as you want at a time. So that's one of the pluses. Current 666, Keith, do you find the payoff from the space the vertical containers, the screw accessory cases say, versus the speed with which you can pick from drawers worth it? I'm not sure which containers you mean, but I have, as you'll have seen on my store tour, let me just reread that. You're talking about these vertical containers behind me here, I think, now that I'm rereading that. To be honest, these were a throwback to when I got started quite early on in the process, and I like these as a space saver, and they are really good for what you can fit in them, and store them on the edge like this, and you do get a remarkable amount in them. It is a pain though, at times, to have to go over, slide them out, open the lid, take the items out, and then close it back up and put it back. It is a bit of a pain, to be honest. So I really recommend something like the Rayco units that I have, or similar organizers. Are much easier to just pull the drawer out, take the bits out, and you're done. I must admit, more often than not, I'm not someone who just slides a drawer and pulls 1 or 2 parts out of the drawer. I'm typically take the drawer out, lower it down, pull them out, and put the drawer back. So there's still a bit more action, and maybe I could speed up a bit doing that, but I'm happy with the way I do it. Now, on top of that, what I'll say is these drawers, and you can just see some by the side of me here, this ZD109, those are fantastic for high volume parts. Just slide in the drawer out. I've got 15 sections in there, and you just pick out of those drawers are really, really good. I always thought I wouldn't particularly like them, to be honest, but they're really good for high volume parts. And what's nice about them is I try and keep the same type of part in a particular drawer. So one drawer will be full of 1x1 plates, for instance, in every colour that I've got. And, you know, there's only 15 sections in there, so it can be that you can't get all of the colours that you've got in the drawer freely available to pick. But what I'll do is I'll put the high volume ones into the open spaces, and then I'll bag some of the others. And I know that'll probably horrify you when I say I'll bag them, because then you've got to open the bag. But I find it's so much easier to know where they are when you're doing it like that. And going back to someone's question earlier about being efficiently putting things, putting parts away, I did a part out earlier today. And, you know, I was saying that normally you've got to look at your brick store file, and you've got to look at the remarks. Half of the things I had in there, I didn't even have to look, because I knew which drawer they were in. And I would literally just go over to the drawer and pour them in. and it was so much easier and a real time saver, to be honest. So the draws are really good. It really is down to the space that you've got available in your own location, in your own room, and what makes sense to you, really. But everyone has their own preferences, and just because I like something a certain way doesn't mean it's the best thing for everybody. Colin, reason I said I need to start using Brick Freedom is that I got an email today from a buyer saying I'd missed 2 lines. Yeah, easy done when you're doing high lot counts on printed paper sheets, to be honest. And that's the good thing about Brick Freedom or other tools that work in a similar way with a pick sheet that you go through and mark them off, is it's very clear and obvious that you haven't finished the order, you know. So you know you've missed a line and you need to go back and make sure you pick that one. So you know, I still think it's well worth it, Colin. Brick Freedom. I know people wince a bit at the you know, it's an added overhead because it is 1% of your sales, and that's across both platforms, of course. And it's also, I think, one of the things that irked some people, certainly when it became the case, was you're also paying 1% on the shipping. But you know, it's you have to think about how easy does it make your life, and for me, the syncing is rock solid, which is, you know, the number one thing. The pick sheet is really, really good, and you know, the reporting aspect of, you know, knowing how I'm comparing this month really easily to last month is really useful as well. I know in the last vlog you added free shipping for UK buyers when they spend £100. Have you taken effect for some larger, more high value orders since you started it? Yeah, I think I've done, I want to say about 3 orders that took advantage of that. And funnily enough, they were all within pretty much the same day. I think the same day or 2. So it I'm not sure whether it was a reason for people to go over, you know, the £100, to be honest, or not. I think in one case it certainly was. In the other cases, they were just ordering such a high volume of things anyway that it took them way over the £100 anyway. So they took advantage of that. Now, I know some sellers who will provide free shipping on orders of, say, £30. Personally, I don't know how they're doing that in a way. It's fine if your £30 order is you know, a second class large letter, but if every one of those turned into a small parcel, it's going to cost you 10% of your order value to ship it. So well, it was too low for me. I thought about putting a free over £50, and that's still something I might think about, but I just set the £100 just to try it, to be honest, and yeah, it certainly worked in some cases. One of the things, just touching on me as well from a few weeks ago on the vlog, I said that I'd set up second class postage, and my findings as a result of doing that have resulted in, I'd say, almost 95% of people choosing second class. But what you have to be aware of, and this was made obvious to me in my discussion I had yesterday with this buyer, is that the second class, because it's the cheapest, becomes the default option when people are placing orders. So it's probably that they're not even that bothered, and they're just leaving it at the default. And so Maybe that's why. Maybe it's not a real conscious choice to choose second class. And it seemed odd to me a little bit that you can't set a default shipping method unless someone knows different. Bricklink seemed to suggest the cheapest one, which is always the second class one, so worth thinking about. Royal Mail 24 is guaranteed 24 hours, or supposed to be. First class isn't guaranteed, especially during peak. Yeah, I take your point there. Now, I discussed this a little bit with the people at the depot today, asking if they prioritised it at the depot, and they told me that there was no separation in what they do. But I'm in a location where it's a depot that goes to another regional depot after mine. For I guess sorting and prioritization. So they said that the only things that get left each day sometimes is the second class. Sometimes gets left and doesn't even leave the depot sometimes, which is why it will take people longer. Tom and Games, I had last week a customer claim his order from my store in the Netherlands to Hungary, claiming never got it. Fishy, but in the end I refunded the whole order after an admin from EL told me to do so. It's it's one of them really tricky things. I think that the tracking, and you have to decide if it's if it's worth the risk or not. One thing I always tell people is, I wonder if I can hide the name on this, is when you've got a shipping label in the UK, here's a second class shipping label. So this is a non-tracked label, but if you get someone saying that they've not received their parcel and they want to know where it is, then you can send, I'm no good looking in the mirror, but you can give them, go to your local depot, give them this number. They'll type it in and they'll tell you exactly where it is, when it's been scanned, what they've done with it, and they'll tell you whether the customer's got it or not. It doesn't matter whether it is tracked or not. And here's another example, just happen to have this handy. So this is a printout from the Royal Mail tracking system. And this tells me every single date, time, depot, etc. And I don't know if it was this one. So it'll tell you, when it's been accepted, what time, what the tracking point was. One of them I got even, told me the name of the postman who delivered it. So all of this talk about tracked and untracked is a bit rubbish as far as I'm concerned. The tracked aspect is, if it's tracked, the customer has visibility to the tracking. It doesn't mean if it's non-tracked that you can't find out where it is. You can go to your depot and they'll tell you. Be friendly with your local depot staff and they'll be so helpful. At least mine are. I have two people who work on the depot desk regularly, the alternate weeks, and they're both so helpful. It's really good. Skits Bricks, you mentioned in your recent video doing for free shipment for £50 and up. How's that going? Now, yeah, that's what Anton, I think it was talking about earlier. I did free shipping over 100 in the end. I bottled out on the £50 one. And I've had, as I said earlier, I think 3 people take advantage of that. I might reduce it at some point down the line, but I need to figure out, whether it's kind of cost effective, whether it's worth taking the hit on the postage or not. Colin, someone left me negative feedback a couple of weeks ago. Ordered on a Thursday, you posted Friday. He emailed on Monday saying, this is not first class service. Yeah, well, I mean, you're always going to get the odd customer who's difficult. I mean, I don't know what to say. I sympathise with you, obviously. A lot of people, you know, either don't understand or are just impatient. You know, I had a similar situation recently where I had a customer who had ordered something, I think first class, and the next day they were chasing me because it hadn't arrived. Now, in that case, it didn't arrive for a week and he kept chasing me and it hadn't arrived. And I thought, well, what's going on? And I checked with my local depot, as I just said earlier, and somehow his particular item had got missorted. It was missorted as if it was coming back out to be delivered to me. And it took a week, but it figured itself out and got to him in a week. But, you know, that was first class service, you know. So nothing guaranteed, as Argumentum 22 said earlier. RM24 in theory is guaranteed, and that's what this buyer I talked to yesterday was saying, that he has one seller that uses RM24 and he always gets it the next day. So that's given me food for thought, to be honest, and I wonder whether it's worth doing that or not. Keith, how did you get your logo on the postage labels you do? It's dead easy. There's a section to put your brand in on the click and drop site. The caveat is you can only do it if you're a business customer. I think you can't do it as a regular click and drop user, but if you have a Royal Mail business account, which I do, then you can add the branding on there, and that's, you know, another benefit to being a Royal Mail business customer, I think. And to me, depending on whether you're sending enough volume or not, being a Royal Mail business customer is a no-brainer for me. And I know other people have tried it and then quit it because they thought it was too much hassle. The benefits outweigh the negatives to me. I mean, I still use the click and drop platform just as if non-business users would use it. It's great now. Of course, one thing I didn't mention about Brick Freedom is the click and drop integration. So at the push of a button, I can push all of my orders over to click and drop. They're all in there. I then just apply the appropriate postage, and you know, it works in the same way that it does for you as individuals. But going back to the benefits, you know, you've got, as I said earlier, the free 6x4 labels. And there's other things like the stick on customs pouches that you put on the back of envelopes, things like that. So you can literally go onto a Royal Mail supply site and order whatever you want. Now, in theory, one of the negatives you could say is, in theory, you're meant to separate the classes of postage into different sacks and hand them over to Royal Mail. And I used to do that, but in practice, you don't seem to need to. I very rarely take a Royal Mail sack now, depending on what volume I have. I would say that I definitely do on a Monday because of the volume of the weekend's orders, etc. But through the week, I think I took about 17 orders today, and I just took them all in a hold all. Now you have to print a manifest each day, which is no problem. You know, it's just a function of click and drop, and you just print out your 2 sheets of paper or whatever, and you take your pieces of paper to your depot, or I think you can do this at the post office as well. You take them along, and they scan them, they scan the post items, and that's just to make sure that you're not trying to put more through the postal system than you're claiming you've put through. Now, the other thing is, whether you see this as a benefit or not, is I pay in arrears for my post. So they've now, it used to be monthly, but now they've started charging weekly. So every week they will take what they've invoiced me for a month earlier, the week's business from a month earlier, if that makes sense. So I preferred it when it was monthly, if I'm honest, although you would get a big bill, you know, so it would be funny, you'd get a bill for 1,000 quid's worth of postage or something. But now it's weekly. It breaks it down into smaller amounts, obviously, but it's just a little more to be aware of and to be checking when it's coming out of your account and things like that. But yeah, I you know, I quite like having the online business account. Colin saying, I've recently sold my trays, now just use multi-drawer cabinets. Yeah, and large pull-out drawers with takeaway tubs. Yeah, I used to use takeaway tubs as well. A recent vlog, I had a row of takeaway tubs along one of the walls, but I've removed them actually and put all of that stock into drawers now. Just because I want to use that wall space as a kind of a sorting area for when I start doing the used sorting. And the intention there is, I know some of you who are watching now even have seen some of the bins that I've put there. Those bins were only what I got from the brick pickers. They're way too small. My intention is to get much bigger, wider. I don't know what they call them. They're like these industrial bins, and they're open fronted, so you can just drop the parts in there, and you know, that should allow me to you know, get a reasonable bit of sorting done, and then I'll just pour them into a bigger tub, and once that bigger tub is full of a certain category of parts, then I'll sort it down and list it. Can't grumble with the 1%, to be honest, purely because it makes the sinking effortless. Absolutely, Colin. I mean, I think you know, it's just part of business, isn't it? You know, as I said earlier, I used to run Bricklink, and it's just not worth the risk of a failure. I remember going back a long way. What do they call him now? Big B Bricks in the US. I remember a year or two ago, he had a massive sinking issue. He used to use Bricklink, I think, and he had a huge sinking issue, and it took him offline for, I don't know, a week or two, I think, because his inventory was that badly out of sync. So I think, you know, as someone like you, Colin, and myself, who, you know, this is how we earn our livings, 1% to make sure you've got a robust solution in place for sinking is perfect. Now, one thing I will say is that you won't necessarily get 100% of things synced across, just as you wouldn't with Bricklink as well. And that's purely down to the way Brickowl catalogue their parts versus Bricklink. Sometimes it'll find it hard to find a match, but there's a matching mechanism in Brick Freedom where you can go in, and if you can find the Brickowl BOID, you can match it up and sync it. To be honest, I don't even bother. I'm happy with the, you know, whatever it is, 99, 98, 99% of parts that sync across freely, and I'm fine with that. What else have we got? Colin, do you use Stripe or just PayPal? I use Stripe and I use PayPal. And one thing that I've done recently, which I should have done ages ago, is set up a different PayPal account for micropayments. So I'm now using two PayPal accounts, one for amounts below £11.70 and one for amount above £11.70. And it's really easy to set up for Bricklink and Brickowl. I don't think you can have the two accounts on eBay, but I don't think that matters to me anyway. All my eBay stuff's through eBay managed payments, so my money doesn't come through PayPal that way. I do use Stripe. I see much more PayPal usage than Stripe. A bank transfer is something that I wouldn't mind setting up, to be honest, but I can't see how to do it. I've spoken to other people and they say that there should be an option within the payment methods to set up bank transfers, but I don't seem to have that option. I don't know if I'm going to have to reach out to Bricklink, helpline and see how to get that set up. But I don't have a bank transfer set up. The only time I do bank transfers is manually through if I've sold something through Facebook Marketplace or something like that. So, or for instance, recently I sold a bunch of the orange cabinets that I had to a local seller, and obviously that was a bank transfer, but that's all completely outside of Bricklink and Brickowl, obviously. Anton's asking, Keith, how does it work with the Bricklink VAT, or when you're ordering EU orders, is there anything extra you need to do? No, Bricklink take care of everything. So if there's VAT to be charged for European buyers, then Bricklink work all of that out, and they're charging that. You don't need to worry about that. It is different. I think I can never remember what the threshold is. I think it's about £138 or somewhere around there. Where if it's lower than that, Bricklink will charge the VAT. If it's above that, Bricklink won't charge the VAT, and the customer will have to pay the VAT when they receive the items. You do have to sometimes be careful. I haven't heard many instances of this recently, but in the early days of it all, I did see quite a few customers complain that even though they'd been charged VAT through Bricklink, they were asked by their postal service to pay VAT again when it got to them. I think that was just teething problems with people not knowing what to do when the the iOS stuff came in. I've not heard any complaints about that kind of thing recently. Sometimes, not so much now, but sometimes I'll write on the packet VAT has been paid as well. I'll just write it on the bottom of the envelope. For Germany, as I said earlier, with the Packaging Act, I have to write a special number that's unique to me on the package on the outside, so that can be tracked through that as well. Augmentum, you're saying you used to work in a sorting depot. It's mostly machine computer driven, but the hoppers are filled with first class and then second class is processed. Right, yeah, makes sense. Colin, yeah, you think people think we're Amazon. You're absolutely right there. I think Amazon culture is kind of caused a problem for all of us. Everybody, probably including myself, expect things next day pretty much. Anton's asking, Keith, does many of the used basic bricks sell well for you in the store? Have you had customers make notes if the parts are discoloured or have scratches? Yeah, used stuff sells really well. So don't be frightened of selling used stuff. You have to set your own quality standards, and I think depending on how you set those standards is going to result in how many issues you have. I think I have a pretty good quality standard. I would never list anything that I wouldn't be more than happy to receive myself. So if there's slight discoloration, I won't sell it, unless it's, the only exception I'll say to that is if it's something valuable and rare. So if it's, let's say, I don't know, some more valuable stormtrooper helmet, let's say it's worth a tenner, and there's a bit of slight discoloration on one side, then I'll list it and I'll mention that it's discoloured on one side, so that people know what to expect. But basic bricks, if they're scratched, bite marks, chips, anything like that, discoloured, yeah, they just go in the bin for me. And I know I've been called out sometimes because, you know, people like to save them up for filler and things like that. And I've even heard of people selling the filler, but that's not something I've done so far. Staffordshire bricks. I think I saw some of the B&Q drawers you had in the lockup that had dividers in. If so, which of these, as I have the B&Q grey one? So the ones that I had in the lockup, I don't think they were B&Q drawers. They were Von House was the make of them, and none of them had dividers in. The only drawers that have dividers are the Rayco ones that I use. I mean, I'm not saying they're the only ones you can buy that have dividers. I'm sure there are others. But I use the Rayco ones, and I get the Rayco dividers. I've bought lots of them over the years, and yeah, they can seem expensive, but you know they maximize the usage of the drawer, so they're an essential as far as I'm concerned. I don't bother with dividers for the larger drawers in the Rayco units. I only do it for the smaller size drawers. And I was also really lucky with a watcher of the channel, actually, who started 3D printing their own dividers. And they sent me a whole load of Rayco ones, like a box full of them. So I've still got lots of spare dividers for the Rayco drawers, and they still come in handy every day. Ralph's telling me I need to request permission to do transfers through the help desk. Thanks, Ralph. Yeah, I'll have to reach out to them then and ask about that. Andy from Norfolk Bricks, I was told you have to raise a ticket with Bricklink to set about. All right, Andy's saying the same thing. Yeah, thanks both of you for that. Colin, yeah, I agree. Bricklink needs to sort out bank transfer option. Yeah, I don't know why they make it difficult. To be honest, it seems weird. Now, I don't know how the bank transfer works. For me, I would only want bank transferring for customers in the UK. So I'd only want domestic bank transfers. I imagine you don't want to get into the problem of someone sending me an order and sending US dollars to be converted or something like that. Because then I would imagine you'd get a currency conversion charge or something. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. Cheers for tuning in, Colin. Enjoy The Apprentice. I'm going to be heading off for that myself as well. I think so. We'll probably wrap up shortly. Matthew Francis, do you find used or new sells better here in the UK? I think both sell equally well, to be honest, and it really depends on your strategy, on your business model, and I think this is all part of the interesting part about being a seller, is what you want to sell, how you want to sell it, and I think both sell really well. There's no easy answer. I think there's pros and cons to both. So if you're a used seller, things are going to sell just as well as new, but you're going to be presumably buying your inventory at a much lower rate because you're going to be buying in bulk tubs, etc. So in theory, the margins are better with used bricks, but of course you've got a much higher labor cost because it's going to take you lots of time to sort those parts. Some people just don't want that effort, and I can understand that, to be quite honest. The new used is a much easier route, and you know exactly what you've got in the box that you get in, whereas with used you don't know what's in the tub of bulk you've bought necessarily. You know, you might have some indication of what's in there, but on the plus side with the used, you'll find gold at times, you know, so you'll, you know, I remember going through a tub, and I think I had two doors that are used in the cafe corner, which were, you know, worth a bit. So you know, you will find gems in there. Even I remember buying a huge tub of Bionicle stuff for like 25 quid or something, and it was a massive box of Bionicle, and it was from someone in the US, from a local airbase. And I went through, and the masks from some of the Bionicle stuff were worth a fortune. I made, you know, probably 10x that easily. I would have thought. So used it just depends. You'll find gems. With the new, you know exactly what you're getting in the box. The other downside with the new is that lots of people out there, lots of other sellers are going to be buying exactly those same sets to put in their stores. Having said that, new parts are coming out all the time. You're only going to find them in the new sets. You're not going to find that in the used bulk. So it really is a mix. And you need to make a decision. And I have a video that's probably aging a little bit now, but I have a video about what to think about before you start a store. And that is one of the things to think about. You know, what do you want to sell? Do you want to sell used? Do you want to sell new? Are you going to sell both? Are you going to sell minifigures? Are you know, there's lots and lots of ways you can think about what you're going to sell. You know, one of the good things about the Lego community is the different approaches you can take to trying to make money from selling Lego. You know, you can be buying bulk and rebuilding the sets and selling the sets. Again, very time intensive, but some people get a lot of enjoyment from that. It's really down to whatever you choose, but used sells very well, new sells very well. I'm not sure I can say one sells better than the other. It very much depends on the buyer. Some people want all new. Some people don't care if it's new or used. They'll just buy whatever you've got. If it's new, great. If it's used, great. They don't care. So yeah, both sell equally well, I would say. Anton, Keith, if you're looking for good quality bins, try and check out the company called AUER Packaging. They make the best stuff. I've used them so many times. Okay, I'll check them out, Anton. Thanks. I'll have a look at that. Someone recommended Tool Station, I think, to me. So I might check them out as well. Brick Cycle, I save all damaged parts, get 3/4 kilo, stick them on eBay's damage. Yeah, I've heard lots of people say they do that, and I've not done enough sorting of used bulk. I don't think yet that I would do that. I may do that when I start tackling the used bulk that I've got. You know, it's something to consider. I know some people really like it as filler bricks, and as I said, I've even seen other sellers have listings for like kilos of sort of filler brick, and they'll sell it like that. So anyway, I think we're just over an hour, so I think I'll wrap it up there. I don't want to bore you guys to death. It's been a really good conversation, though, and thanks very much for all of the questions. I had some things written down as backup, which I never really got to, but that's fine. That's absolutely perfect. This is exactly what it should be about. You know, just ask away, and I'll answer as truthfully and as honestly and as transparently as I can. So, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great evening, and I'm probably going to be doing these something like every other week, so do stop by again in the future and keep an eye out for more of them coming your way. Bye for now.